Lagos State, the state where I live in, the state where many aspire to live in, has been ranked the 3rd worst city for humans to live in. What do you make of this report?
I'm saying that you have not read the report.
Okay.
And if you read the report, you will recognize that first is a survey of 140 cities.
Okay.
That already means that it's a select group of 140 cities. It does not represent the whole world.
Okay.
It does not represent everywhere.
All right.
Okay? Now, out of the 140 cities, Lagos is mentioned there as the 137. Okay? And
138 actually.
138. So it's not the worst. No? It has a 140 cities. It has other behind it. Now, we are talking of a select benchmarked cities all over the world, international destinations. And so, the worst of it, in fact, could be better than the rest. That's the first. So it is not logical to extrapolate that because one is what out of 140 best cities in the world, it means that it's what all the best cities. Logically, it's not correct. You know, it's false. You know, we call it AC generalization and logic.
You see, but why you say that, you know, being worse or being a selected city or not, we only actually outperformed Dakar, according to this report that I read, in Bangladesh and Damascus in war-torn Syria. And I find that a bit disturbing. But the way if you say it is not logical, my point, but I understand what you say, the fact that you're not comparing it to all the cities in the world, just a select group of cities. Yes. But do you not think that the fact that we only outperformed Dakar in Bangladesh and Damascus in war-torn Syria, isn't that a call for worry?
The first point is this. What are the other indices being talked about? Okay. What is the population of Dakar, for example, compared to what are the resources available to Lagos compared to Vienna, you know, to Melbourne, to Sydney, you know, to Tokyo.
Yes.
What are the resources? What is the GDP of Lagos compared to some of these countries? You know, so in the first place, as Bismarck Grawani said, it's simply unfair. You know, because you have to match the resources with the livability. And then, what is the tax effort here? And if I've taken time to look at the report, and the report is not as damning as it's been presented. In fact, this report has been very honest about how Lagos came to be what it is. It actually advocates a case for Lagos to attract more funding from the federal government and from all over the world. You know, it breaks it down that Lagos has been denied a lot of resources by the federal government, and that because of many years of military rule, where there was not good management of resources, Lagos found itself in a particular spot. And it's the political leadership since 1999 have been grappling with trying to make sure that it catches up, you know, with the rest of the world. That's what the poll says. And that you are benchmarked among 140 cities in the world should be something for you to look at. Because that's Lagos is Nigeria's poster boy, essentially. And it tells you that as a city of destination, as a destination for business, commerce, you are now being ranked as one of the 140 in the world. That for you is something cherry in a way. Now, the challenges that you now find in making it work, we have been working with all those challenges. But the emphasis on resource availability. Give us the kind of money that city has, the kind of dollars that city has.
Is it about the money or is it about management at this point in time?
Primarily about the resources.
I see.
Primarily about, I mean, we have first-class accountants here, we have first-class brains there, you know. And I can tell you when it comes to prudent management of resources, with what we have seen in Lagos in the last 3 years, you can agree with me that it has been prudently managed.
Do you agree with anything in this report at all? Or is it just a write-off for you?
Well, I've made the point. I've made the point that Lagos is even benchmarked, you know, internationally. It's a step forward because, I mean, there are many cities in Nigeria, in Africa, that do not even meet that criteria in the first place. That you are even benchmark tells you that you are already getting closely there. That you have a history of denial. You know, I mean, you have 57 local governments in Lagos. They are using the resources of 20 local governments. You know, over 13 years after they have been created. That tells you a lot about resource mobilization and how it's affecting us.
Yes.
So we know the problem. We know where the problem is. So I mean, we know that the more resources we have, the better we get. You know, that management of the city is not the issue. That the ideas, the livability aspirations of Lagos State, you know, we are on the same page.
Okay, let's do a breakdown. So you tell me, you know, what we have done in this. In these areas, because I really want to look forward to hearing that. If we're talking about the issue of what's really coming to Lagos, how well Lagos is managing it and all that. It's amazing that the more you keep looking at this report, the more you find cities, that really shock you. To begin with, I'm looking at Tripoli in Libya, scoring 134. And of course, we all know what has been playing out in Tripoli to start with.
But if you've done this history of Tripoli,
yes.
Do you know what Gaddafi made Tripoli turn?
But then we also saw the after effect after Gaddafi left as well.
What I'm just saying that the foundations of Tripoli across many years of massive investments, what we did in Nigeria is not what Gaddafi did with his oil.
Lagos also had a very strong foundation. Really, it's always been a trade center.
What I'm saying is Libya has always been an oil-earning country, but it did not go into partnership. It domesticated its own within the resources. Created its own and turned it into people. So what you are having is not the world area. You are having many years of investment in infrastructures in Libya. Here, we have had many years of the infrastructure rise in our systems. And therefore, we are now trying to play catch-up, trying to catch up with the whole world. So it's a different narrative.
Okay, let's begin to break down this, indices or or yardsticks used to measure. Talk about social stability. And of course, under that, you have an issue of prevalence of petty crime, prevalence of violent crime, threat of terror, threat of military conflict, which I find a bit funny because it's not really happening here, and then threat of civil unrest. So let's talk about crime, really. Talk us through what the state, is doing.
But you know that in terms of crime, we've been able to stabilize the state. I mean, when we came on board, that there were quite a few petty crimes, people being robbed and go slow and things like that. The coming in of the more vehicles for the RRS, helicopters, boats.
So we have cameras on the roads now?
We have CCTV all over the place right now, and they're being used to capture thieves and things like that. So on the issue of security, for example, you will agree, if you live in Lagos, that is not a good indication. But then you are comparing. You're comparing with Tokyo. We are comparing with big countries that are advanced, that have had a lot of resources to manage some of these issues. So it could be unfair when you're looking at it from that perspective.
We're comparing with Senegal as well. We're comparing with Algiers. We're comparing with Cameroon as well, which also still top Lagos.
We have to deal with very small communities.
But of course,
and that's why you sometimes ask yourself, what Lagos are we really talking about? Are we talking about Lagos Island? I'm not quite sure. If you're using Lagos Island as an example, we won't be coming out like this. And I'm quite sure that you're talking about Lagos as the mega city, as the conurbations, And so you allow the slum aspect.
Commissioner, are you saying it's a bit different with Lagos mainland? When you're talking about Lagos Island, you're saying if we focus on Lagos Island, we won't get this.
I was trying to get Roxana, who is the author of this report overnight, to try and engage. How did you define your Lagos to start with? Because these are used to in urban stories. How did you define your Lagos? Is it from
did she spend time on the mainland, or did she spend time
to the boundary of? So what are we talking
But shouldn't it be the same both ways, though, whether she stayed on the island or on the mainland?
No, it's not really about island only. But I just wanted to know, how do you define the boundaries? Because it becomes important, the kind of issues. Certainly, we concentrate much more on island and mainland in terms of resources distribution, because of that's where there's a higher concentration than the slum area. So if you mix it up.
So let's talk about the second one. We've just talked about social stability and, of course, crime and all that under. Let's talk about healthcare. Now, availability of private healthcare. There are lots of private, hospitals here to begin with. Quality of private healthcare, availability of public healthcare, the quality of public healthcare, and availability of over-the-counter drugs as well.
It would be nice to interrogate them on this issue.
To really find out what they really went out for, right?
Because in the last 1 year, we've done like 80 new primary care centers, And right now, we have across the state, we have almost like 230 of them.
Commissioner, it's not about really, putting up these structures and equipping them. I'm just going to come in here, talk about a personal experience here. Sometimes you actually fall sick trying to get treatment in some of these public health cares, institutions. And the fact that when you're asked to move from Block A to Block 7 to make payment and then come back to Block 3, in that same space, you can imagine someone who's probably old and really sick moving from one place. So it's actually the ease, I think that's another thing that's a major issue. I don't know if that complaint has come a couple of times to you.
See, the whole idea of having them is basically that you start your journey in healthcare from the primary healthcare center, and it's supposed to be very close to your neighborhood. All right. If it's close to you, then that means that the EU you're raising, about having to move around, does not really happen at this stage because it's quite basic. You know, you want to check the sugar in your blood, you want to check your BP. Those are the kind of EU deal at this level, and that's the bulk of the public. That's really where they are touched. Most women, when they are pregnant, that's where they go. You know, and they have very easy access to the primary health care centers in those areas. So when you look at secondary health care, that's the general hospital. That's basically where issues become complicated, you know, because you also deal with very complex issues. But we have always tried to be as responsible as possible because we also recognize the fact that almost like half of the patients that you see come outside of Lagos.
So, but what I'm trying to say, Honourable Commissioner, is the fact that besides setting up these buildings or these hospitals or putting in doctors in there, is it that difficult to actually, I wouldn't call it an overhaul, but arranging and aligning each department in such a way that it makes it easy, you know, for a patient to get treated? My point being, like, I'm going to go back to what I said. You're coming to a secondary, you know, facility where you're going to make payments, or where you're going to be told that you need to run for a test, and where you're giving a teller to go pay for your test is quite a distance from where you're going to have to pay for that test and then come back to get your test carried out. I want you to really understand the movement. I spent a day just walking about one of the hospitals once, and, you know, seeing really old people moving on their own, trying to get paid, trying to get tested, climbing staircases. Those can really put a strain on someone who is already close to death to begin with. And that's where I'm coming from, saying, when you mentioned the fact that you have these institutions built, what are you doing to ensure that it runs smoothly, both for the doctors and the patients as well? That could be a bit frustrating.
There's a lot of studies and a lot of training going on all the time, you know, for those who are managing the hospitals to be able to simplify these procedures and to make it easier for people to be able to perform the basic tasks of running the place. But see, we're not there, but we don't know the kind of experiences.
Maybe it's time to visit often, you know? Do you think?
The amount I've had in the past that will necessitate trying to make sure that you don't concentrate all the procedures in the same place. Might be a way of trying to audit the system or whatever, or might be a matter of trust of a particular unit and things like that. But these are things that we continue to improve upon day after day. What I'm just basically saying that when you look at some of these issues, you know, there are other indices that we need to look at. The resource availability, the population involved in it, the GDP. These are factors that I think ought to go into this kind of analysis. But the point is, the concept of the worst city is simply not true.
Yeah, I think